Well, it's official. We're that starved of ideas for the channel that we're now branching into alternative history videos in a period that will be marked in this channel's history as when the autism dial was cranked to 11. All we need now are those PowerPoint-style animations and off-screen voiceovers telling you what would have happened if Harold Holt never disappeared. In this scenario, Harold Holt would have simply swam back to shore rather than board the Japanese submarine that took him to Tokyo, where he was forced to teach them the ancient Australian art of snorkeling. Without this significant boost to the economy in flipper sales, Japan would have remained poor and Australia would now be a mini disc manufacturing superpower. Yeah, that would have happened. Seriously though, yes, we're doing this video. Yes, hopefully we can maintain the permanent YouTube title of lamest and smallest timeline to ever do an alternate history on. What if the Liberals won the last election? What would Australia look like right now based on how the Liberals have voted in this parliament? We'll start with the biggest hot button issues that have dominated the entirety of Albo's first term.
Albo went on a plane. Oh, look at the maypoles. His popularity's in freefall. Mayday.
And who could forget the classic
Albo bought a house. Lifestyles of the glib and infamous.
Not to be outdone by this scoop.
Albo went to a music concert. Now everyone hates him. Albo's swan song.
But other than just Murdoch saying how much he personally dislikes Albo, did you hear this one?
Eggs are fucking expensive now. What?
The whole world got fucked by the cost of living crisis after we came out of the pandemic, and so naturally, that was Albo's fault. That's how bad he is, guys. He's such a bad Australian Prime Minister that he caused the cost of living to rise literally in every country on earth. What a The truth is, like with all global events, some governments do well, other governments do poorly, and any way that you cut it, Labor did exceptionally well. The only reason people don't think he didn't is because
if he did so good, how come my life is slightly worse?
So yes, I suppose by the standard the public holds prime ministers to, which seems to be that of a wizard.
Shocking failure.
But unfortunately, unlike the British cabinet, Minister for Magic is not part of the Australian cabinet, so pretty damn good for a group of muggles, isn't it? For instance, I think it's criminal that not every Australian knows that minimum wage was increased under this government by a whopping, you ready for this, $143 a week. Do you understand how massive that is for working families? Like, I shouldn't have to explain this. They're better off by nearly $7,500 a year. Most contestants on Millionaire Hot Seat walk away with less than that. You should be more of a hero to the working class than fucking Eddie Maguire. This is all part of a wider push, by the way, to sharpen Australia's economy, and I really wish that Labor would explain that instead of just saying workers in critical underpaid industries like childcare and aged care receive a pay increase of up to 15%. You notice this though, how this is this new hand gesture of politicians smoothing over an invisible tablecloth? They're working on trying to be a wizard. No, but just so you know, universal childcare is massive. It's up there with Medicare and the NDIS, and as usual, likely to be blocked by the crossbench, purely so they can pretend as always.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote for the guys that stop anything from being done. That'll finally get something done.
Progressive. Really, universal childcare is about boosting the economy of this country because you can't get any more productive than.
Oh, okay, quick, cut the umbilical cord. Yes, all right, I'm off to work. See you at 5, baby.
What do you want to call it?
Dave.
But it's a chick.
I said call it Dave!
Same job, same pay. You know that's increasing workers' pay by up to 40 grand a year? Huge amounts of money in workers' pockets during the cost of living crisis. You can see it in the economy, as Alan Austin points out. When Labor gets in, look at what happens to the workers' share of profits. And I know on this channel, we're always pointing out.
Look at this line. It's going up when Labor's in. That's all your life is, a line.
But kinda, yeah. I mean, you know, if this was any other channel not autistic enough to do an alt history on fucking 2022 in Australia, they'd point out that all those pay increases really matter to poor people. Childcare, wage increases, making sure they're not exploited by employment loopholes. Virtually no other country on earth was lucky enough to get anything close to that kind of cost of living relief, and we very well couldn't have as well. If Labor didn't scrape through in the last election, you think this would have given you anything? That cool. You can tell from his voting record, he wouldn't have given you shit. Wages are growing under Labor. They were stagnant under the coalition government before the cost of living crisis. Back then, the coalition were allowing you to be robbed to the tune of $131 billion. Labor passed anti-wage theft laws to stop that. And remember, this was all before the cost of living crisis. So can you imagine what the Liberals would do now when they're justified in taking money off you?
Oh, inflation's up. I reckon if we brought back Howard's work choices, that'd fix it.
Naturally, the papers would say,
tough medicine for tough times.
If you don't believe me, take it from a far more trustworthy source. Scott Morrison. He literally said he didn't want wage growth. Yes, he said it would damage the economy. Well, after these massive wage increases Labor's given the workers, the numbers are in. It didn't. In fact, Labor is, as usual, being praised internationally for exceptionally sound economic management, second in the world for budget management. ScoMo never got second for anything except number of seats in 2022. Oh, sucked in! Seriously though, we did pull off a mad win in 2019. Sucked in, Bill! You know, the ACTU calculated if wage growth had occurred at the same rate as the previous 8 years of coalition government, the average Australian would currently be $4,700 worse off. Instead, they're around $8,000 better off when you include the tax cut Labor gave the lower and middle classes that the Tories wanted to give exclusively to the rich. So always remember, when you see these idiots online saying,
Uni party, no difference between the two major parties.
they're exactly the type of bozo who isn't even aware that there's about a $13,000 difference between the two major parties for exactly them. The stage 3 tax cuts rolled out by ScoMo that would have all but certainly been rolled out if he had won would have cost the Australian Treasury $243 billion in the next 10 years following its introduction, while Labor, instead, is claiming back billions from corporate tax cheats. I don't think you'd be getting that under the Liberals. Labor's claimed $4.3 billion from oil and gas giants, hiding profits by funneling them overseas, and that's before Labor introduced world-leading corporate tax evasion laws late last year. So in doing that, they've also achieved something that hasn't been done in many, many years, and that is back in black. As opposed to media just pretends we're back in black. I wasn't referring to the budget, I just like the song. Back-to-back surpluses. No small feat when the world's economy is still fried from crawling out of COVID and having energy prices fucked by Putin at the same time. The Liberals were never able to balance the budget, ever. Even pre-COVID, when what were the economic problems back then? Abbott's own economic problems? So once again, even if you're going by the Liberal standard of this absurd and questionable benchmark of achieving surpluses as this hallmark of a healthy economy, they don't do that. The only actual benchmark the Tories set is pretending to achieve surpluses. That's it. Well, they've got some other tricks up their sleeves. ScoMo would continue his love affair with fossil fuels. He moved from his simping of lumps of coal in Parliament to using crude oil as lube and promising an oil and gas-led recovery. Do you remember that? Right after the pandemic. Not just environmentally stupid, mind you, economically stupid. Australia is far better positioned to be renewable barons than gas barons.
That you're mistaken.
But they'll never admit that. Even when they can't simp for gas publicly, they'll reluctantly choose nuclear instead, thinking,
Well, as long as one mining magnate can control the fuel supply, I'm happy, or at least as close to happy as I can be.
guys, we are not going to build functioning reactors before renewables improve to the point that the tired argument of the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow becomes completely moot. South Australia and Tasmania already mostly decarbonised their grid, and this is already in spite of the fact that in almost every other respect, they live several decades behind the rest of Australia. Labor are pouring billions to turn Australia into a key player in the green transition. They have invested in enough battery projects, incentives to install solar panels, offshore wind, hydrogen projects to provide energy for 8 million homes. They've already approved more renewable projects in a couple of years than the Liberals did in a decade. Labor also wants us to actually add value to the raw materials we have that'll produce energy infrastructure like solar panels and batteries. They've put $1.5 billion into developing battery and solar panel manufacturing domestically. They've also put a combined
rough total of basically $9 billion
into hydrogen investments critical to developing green iron and steel industries. And bonus, not for the world, but for Australia, Trump is threatening to stop development of renewables. So we might actually have an opportunity to become a renewables leader in the developed world. You think we're going to get that if the Libs get in? They would have kept the fossil fuel industry on life support by handing them endless taxpayer money. Or they'd have pissed away billions for their nuclear reactors, probably even before they asked the premiers. You can't build in Queensland, mate.
Probably should have thought about that. Oh well, back to plan A.
So if the Liberals did win the last election, what would the future have looked like? Well, there would be no future, really. Just the past, endlessly on a loop. Australia would continue to be this big pit in the ground with all these slave orcs digging away.
Can I have the same meat rations as the other orcs? No! Keep digging! I just had a baby orc! Give him a hard hat and get him on the line! Surely he should get some sort of early snotling education? No! Oh, why can't we just get the sun to do all this work? Because I said so, that's why! Well, I remain confident it would have been worse under Elbow the Wizard.
Yes, we truly are living in the worst timeline, hey? Like and subscribe. And come see my show. It's about aliens.